for John to build off of there. But, we kind of mentioned that going into the preview of the match that because both sides kind of have easily disruptible strategies, those first few turns are very important, right? And kind of the side that got the advantage there could easily just kind of tilt the match in a way that the other side couldn't recover from, and that ended up being exactly what we saw. Gavin got those quick KOs by making a great switch on Landers and kind of just applying pressure there, and he was able to take the match pretty cleanly because of it.
Yeah, well, we're going to hop right into Game 2, see if John Hu can take it back, regain the momentum that he was starting to get back at the end of Game 1. You saw him forfeit so he didn't have to play out the last remaining turns. So we'll have to see if he can make any adjustments. Maybe he thinks he can just play the same way and get a little bit luckier this time.
Maybe, and we're getting the match really quickly here. So I was kind of expecting, especially John, to have to think about this one a little bit more, but apparently he knows exactly what he wants to do. I think on John's end, I would switch things up. I don't think you can pick
3 Earthquake weak Pokemon.
I just think Landorus is too big of a problem. You've got to make some adjustments there.
Yeah, well, Gavin will lead off his double electric types, the Thundurus and the Wash Rotom. And it looks like he made a good call because Azumarill is on the field now. That's a Pokemon you don't want to let get set up, and the best way to keep it from setting up is threatening it with offensive pressure from 2 electric types.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of the best combinations of Pokemon that you could use to stop this situation. Lopunny can only fake out one of the 2 Pokemon, right? So there's still an electric type Pokemon left to fire a Thunderbolt at Azumarill. Very likely it'll have to protect or switch here because of it. So, nice lead by Gavin. It's one of the advantages of having both Rotom and Thundurus instead of one or the other. As both these Pokemon to counter the situation, and one of the solutions to dealing with your opponent's electric-type Pokemon fake-out just isn't going to work here.
Yeah, as you mentioned at the start of the game, most people only using one of those electric-type Pokemon. Both of these on the field for Gavin. The Wash Rotom is the threat, going to take the fake-out instead as Taunt from Thundurus, so no damage being dealt this turn from Gavin. Azumarill will get its Belly Drum off, so it's going to maximize its attack, cut its HP in half, but then eat that Citrus Berry and get it right back up to about 75% health. And that's basically, Lopunny is now taunted, but that's basically a free Belly Drum.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both sides probably are pretty happy with that play in some regard. Gavin got what he expected there. Thundurus, if it's trained very defensively, often can't knock out an Azumarill from here with Thunderbolt. I think it's very unlikely it can. So rather than getting Azumarill to low HP, he taunted the Lopunny so he didn't have to worry about the threat of Teeter Dance and Protect. And with Aqua Jets from Azumarill flying around in addition to that, it'd be very easy for the game to get out of hand. So probably a wise play, even though he had to give up a lot to get there.
Yeah, John's going to switch out the Lopunny for the Togekiss, probably trying to get that redirection in. But Thundurus, smart play, taunts the Togekiss on the switch in. Now Togekiss cannot redirect any of Gavin's attacks, especially, for example, that Will-O-Wisp, which would completely negate everything that John just did.
Yeah, absolutely. A really great play by Gavin. Once again, he's
very
played
smart,
flawlessly this series. That taunt on Togekiss really helping out there. And now Azumarill's going to lose the ability to protect.
Yeah, Thundurus is just, not having any of it, keeping taunting on that Azumarill. Aqua Jet will pick up the KO. I'll have to see if Wash Rotom will be able to connect with its Will-O-Wisp this time, especially with Togekiss air slashing it. Togekiss is not a fun Pokemon to go against because you flinch.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
If you can't avoid the Will-O-Wisp, flinch it.
Yeah, Togekiss is one of the few Pokemon that kind of still provide support while taunted. Still more likely than not to flinch you with Air Slash when it gets it off thanks to that Serene Grace ability. And it creates some problems for Gavin here. However, Kangaskhan now, if it has Fake Out, can stop Azumarill from attacking, allowing Rotom to use a Thunderbolt here, thanks to the taunt from Thundurus.
We'll have to see if Rotom will be able to get off an attack this time, or if Togekiss can keep flinching it as much as possible. Fake Out from Kangaskhan onto Azumarill, dealing a good amount of damage, about 25% of the health there. Azumarill flinching, Togekiss trying to go for that Air Slash again onto Wash Rotom. Still not dealing much damage, but will it get the flinch again? Yes! 2 flinches against that Wash Rotom. Togekiss's taunt wears off, and now you have a fully belly-drummed Azumarill with a Togekiss that can now redirect attacks.
Yeah, Togekiss is living right, gets those 2 Air Slashes, and
Togekiss woke up.
Yeah, Gavin is in a world of hurt. Playing very well, I guess, on both sides. A certain irony, too, that Azumarill really doesn't want to be taunted right now to not be able to protect, but Thundurus had to taunt it, right, because he knew it was going to faint, so kind of set himself up.
Yeah, well, Togekiss trying to redirect attacks. The double edge from Kangaskhan onto Togekiss, dealing a lot of damage. Not going to be able to pick up the KO, though. Hurt by the Rocky Helmet. Good tech there from John to make sure that Kangaskhan's a little bit weaker now. So taking a lot of damage from the recoil plus the Rocky Helmet. The Thunderbolt as well, going to make sure that Togekiss is out of the game now. But it did its job. It got its redirection off. Now Azumarill gets to take out one of Gavin's opposing Pokemon. He chooses the Rotom. The return, easy KO on Wash Rotom, and now he can bring Lopunny back on and keep the momentum up. And Taunt wears off.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was a really great play to knock out Rotom instead of Kangaskhan. Again, it's one of the situations where it's very tempting just to always focus on the Mega, especially Kangaskhan, one of the de facto best Pokemon in the game for 2 years now. But Rotom was a much bigger problem with that resistance to Aqua Jet. Now, Lopunny can try to fire a fake out out of his Kangaskhan. Even if it has Protect, it doesn't really matter. Aqua Jet can knock out Landorus. Get Kangaskhan the turn after. Sucker Punch likely not going to be able to take out Azumarill. And Azumarill just running over this game.
Oh, yeah. Team Bunny on John's side is hopping his way over to a Game 3. Lopunny going to Mega Evolve, fake out that Kangaskhan, as you mentioned. And then John able to pick up a clean KO with that Aqua Jet onto Landorus. Even with the Intimidate, doesn't matter. Azumarill got its belly drum off. It's way too powerful to just suffer one Intimidate. And that's going to be, a very strong Game 2 from John. Making those adjustments after coming back from a pretty hard loss, Game 1. You have to think Gavin probably thinks he got just a little bit unlucky with those 2 flinches, but the double Aqua Jet from Azumarill going to pick up the final KO there. Game 2 goes to John, going to Game 3.
Yeah, that we are. Azumarill just completely taking over that game, but getting a lot of help from its friends.
Completely ran over that game.
A lot of help from its friends,
yeah.
though. Both Togekiss and Lopunny really showing us some of the value they can have on the support end. And again, we kind of see John's strange tactics coming through. He's got a lot of weird looks he can throw at you. And
different modes.
That's some of the fun of this team, right? Is that it's difficult to know exactly what he's going to use and lead safely. It looked like Gavin actually led really well into that one, but he just didn't have enough damage.
Yeah, didn't get the couple rolls he needed to make that into a 2-0, and instead we are going to Game 3, so let's hop right into this next match. Both of these players choosing their Pokemon incredibly quickly. We'll have to see if Gavin thinks that he needs to make any changes, or if he just needs to roll the dice a little bit better, or if John changes it up completely again and goes with an entirely different mode.
And that was one of the shortest team previews I've ever seen. Like, if you could have picked your Pokemon during Game 2, these guys probably would have done it.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like John will go back to the Azumarill mode, but leading with the Togekiss instead of the Lopunny up against Wash Rotom and Thundurus. So Gavin correctly identifying that Azumarill would be out on the field again, trying to get both of his Electric-type Pokemon in a good position. But again, that Togekiss out on the field, very disruptive.
This seems sort of like the epitome of if I'd just gotten a little bit luckier, I would have won the game. Both sides just choosing to do the same thing once again.
Well, Togekiss, follow me, making sure that no damage or taunts come out from Gavin's side onto that Azumarill. Going to get a free setup. Taunt onto Togekiss. Thunderbolt from Wash Rotom onto Togekiss. Going to deal some damage. Not quite 50%. Going to be interesting to see if Togekiss is going to be able to survive another turn up against the Thundurus and the Wash Rotom. Belly Drum from Azumarill, again, maximizing its attack, healing up a little bit more. And, Gavin's in a little bit better position because Togekiss is weaker now, but Azumarill still got set up.
Yeah, absolutely. A different Pokemon coming in to support the Azumarill this time. Togekiss instead of Lopunny. I think John's actually in a really fascinating turn here where he's played so conservatively with Azumarill. In the previous game, I'm curious if Gavin wants to anticipate the Protect and he can't just get a cheap return off here.
Well, it looks like there will be a taunt coming out from Thundurus onto Azumarill. We'll go for the Aqua Jet, pick up the KO onto Thundurus, as we saw in Game 2. So it looks like just another trade here, taunt for a KO. Togekiss going for the Air Slash, misses, but Will-O-Wisp will connect. So, Gavin got the roll this time.
Yeah, he did indeed, and that's kind of the danger of attacking there with Azumarill rather than going to Lopunny. John does make that play. He goes for the Thundurus instead, which might be a bigger issue for some of his other Pokemon. We've saw how frustrating the taunts been, so certainly we can understand. But puts Gavin in a much better position than the previous game. Finally, Rotom gets an attack off. Fortunately, doesn't miss the Will-O-Wisp. I'm sure Gavin wishes he could have used the Thunderbolt, but probably a similar situation to that Thundurus where the defensive Rotom may not be able to pick up this knockout. And at least now, Azumarill's burn, it can only survive so much longer, and that attack is a little bit more manageable.
Yeah, definitely a little bit more manageable, but still threatening. Kangaskhan Mega Evolving, going to get the Fake Out off onto that Azumarill, making sure that it takes no more damage from it. Dealing a lot of damage, actually, with the Fake Out. Azumarill will flinch. Togekiss getting the Air Slash off again on Wash Rotom. Will Rotom be able to get an attack off this time? No, still flinching. So as soon as Air Slash hits, Rotom doesn't get to move.
Yeah, apparently just every time. That's how it works.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, just like Fake Out Slash, just every time, just boom, you got it. Unfortunately, Azumarill takes enough damage there that a Sucker Punch, if Gavin's Kangaskhan has it, and I don't know why it wouldn't. I should be able to finish off this Azumarill if it tries to Aqua Jet here, and it isn't able to protect because of that taunt. So Gavin still worked himself into a pretty nice slot here. He would very much like to be able to attack with his Rotom and actually take the 2 Pokemon knockout in this turn, but even if he doesn't, he's in a pretty good spot here.
Yeah, it looks like John will switch out that Togekiss. You have to hope that John has some more damage in the back, and it looks like he does. Excadrill now out on the field. Azumarill, of course, we saw it deal all of the damage last game. Aqua Jet will get off, actually, onto that Kangaskhan. Going to deal a little bit of damage, but not quite enough. Double Edge from the Kangaskhan onto the Excadrill, actually. Going to deal a lot of damage back to that, even though it's a resisted attack, but taking a lot more damage in recoil. Rotom will be able to get the Thunderbolt off onto Azumarill, finally picking that up, and of course, picking the KO up there, and also damaging that Excadrill, the other major offensive threat from John's team.
The other major threat indeed, but now Togekiss can get back in and avoid the taunt, and I guess it's Lopunny instead.
Yeah, well, Lopunny out on the field. We also know that Excadrill with Mold Breaker can threaten that Rotom, get it off the field, and then focus down that Kangaskhan. Yeah,
I wouldn't be too surprised to see that happen, but Excadrill, unless it also has 2 ground-type attacks, it can only knock out 1 Pokemon at the time, and if it does have Earthquake, Lopunny probably really wouldn't appreciate that too much. The fake-out pressure does allow Excadrill to probably pick up 1 knockout here, but it's going to be careful. A Double Edge or a Hydro Pump would easily knock it out from either of these Pokemon. I'm a little bit surprised to see the Lopunny angle rather than the Togekiss one. I'm curious if we will see a Protect and a Teeter Dance here rather than a fake-out play, because Excadrill's still in a little bit too much danger with both of these quicker, one faster Pokemon out and the dangerous Rotom, though.
You also have to wonder if Landorus is in the back or if that game 2 scared Gavin off from bringing it.
Yeah, wouldn't be too surprised to see a fake out on the Landorus slot now and a drill run on Rotom.
Yep, Landorus in favor of Kangaskhan. Gavin was not afraid of the Azumarill, knew that Landorus would be one of the Pokemon he needed to get the win over John here. Lopunny will Mega Evolve, going to go ahead and probably use that fake out on the now Landorus slot, as you mentioned. Try to pick up a KO onto the Rotom, but actually protect from Excadrill, so this is going to be another Teeter Dance play. Lopunny going to confuse both the Landorus and the Wash Rotom. I kind of would have liked to have seen John go for the KO there, actually. But we'll have to see what Gavin can do now. The confusion from Wash Rotom, not able to get an attack off, so you know what? This is why I'm behind the desk and John is playing.
Yeah, I actually think I like this play better. The drill run would be nice if you can get it, but I think expecting Landorus is in the back, as it should be, after it pretty much single-handedly won the first game. I don't know for sure, but with a Focus Sash on that Excadrill and an Intimidate, I doubt it knocks out Rotom from there, and if Rotom just gets out a free Hydro Pump and knocks out Excadrill, the game's pretty much over. I think the smarter play by John there not to take that risk.
Yeah, well, John is not taking any risks at all. Switches Excadrill out in favor of the Togekiss. Gets another confusion hit on Landorus. Lopunny's Drain Punch is going to go through onto the Wash Rotom, trying to deal as much damage, a little chip damage on that Wash Rotom as possible. Confusion again, hits itself in its own confusion. Looks like Gavin's just not getting the rolls, and Lopunny's Teeter Dance doing work.
Yeah, wow, Teeter Dance, apparently the new metagame right here. It's still a difficult spot, though. I mean, Gavin's going to get a bunch of chances to try to attack, and getting a knockout here, withdrawing Landorus, bringing it back out, I would put him in a really fabulous position. So important for John to try to get a knockout quickly, and he's not in a great position to do that. Typically, when we see this Togekiss Excadrill, we see Tailwind on the Togekiss would give Excadrill a chance to win this game, but we haven't seen it from John yet, so I don't know if it has it. And I guess one more fun piece of trivia, too, with this Togekiss Excadrill combination being important for this battle, but it was made famous in 2013 by Randy Qua, who Gavin eliminated in the top 4 of this tournament that year.
Yeah, and it looks like the Excadrill Togekiss may have a chance at revenge. Drain Punch onto Wash Rotom, dealing a little bit more damage again. Going to activate that Citrus Berry as Landorus switches out for Kangaskhan, just trying to preserve those Intimidates. Rotom snapping out of confusion, gets the Thunderbolt off onto Togekiss, while Kangaskhan avoids the Air Slash. So Kangaskhan now back in the field. Togekiss now in the red, and that miss and then the snap out of confusion, you mentioned Gavin would get a lot of chances, and he got the one that he needed.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got mostly back in control here. I mean, I don't know if I want to go too far with that yet, but it should be able to at least get in a position where John has to get that Teeter Dance up again, so kind of burn through some turns, get some more chances to deal damage. He's still actually got to get another attack off since he didn't get a knockout that turn, but he's in a pretty good spot now.
Yeah, fake out from Kangaskhan will pick up the KO onto Togekiss, but again, that Rocky Helmet dealing some good damage back. May put it into Drain Punch KO range, actually, from Lopunny. Togekiss will feint. Drain Punch from the Lopunny onto Kangaskhan. Going to connect. Will be able to pick up the KO there. Kangaskhan goes down. Wash Rotom now on the field. So Wash Rotom and Landorus up against Lopunny and Excadrill in the back. Lopunny taking that Thunderbolt. Taking it like a champ, actually. That's a very bulky bunny.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Rotom is maybe not the most offensively gifted Pokemon we've ever seen. However, Gavin gets himself to a great spot. Even though both sides trade KOs, Landorus now can lock into that superpower, start spreading that around, and he should be able to close the game out.
Yeah, unless John gets way too many Teeter Dance confusion hits.
Yeah, so Gavin, he played it really smart in that first game where he just didn't give John the chance to try to Teeter Dance the Landorus. I'm expecting him to do the same thing here. What he needs to do is just keep superpowering that Lopunny slot, not risk that happening. We'll see if he does that here.
Well, Excadrill is protecting, going to project that the Teeter Dance was coming out, but as you correctly identified, Landorus with the superpower picking up the KO onto Lopunny. The handshake across the table. Looks like Gavin will take the first round in 3 games.
Really exciting series, though, isn't it?
Really good series. Of course, the Hydro Pump into the Protect. After Game 1, it looked like John didn't have a way out of this, but he really clawed his way back into it both that game and in Game 2, switching up with the Azumarill. And then this Game 3 was, just a barn burner. Excadrill finally going down to that Landorus, and there you have it. Gavin wins the first match of the day. He will move on to 1-0. Of course, John now 0-1. Not where you want to be at the start of your Day 2, but still very possible for him to come back and make it to the top cut.
Yeah, certainly we've seen repeatedly, even just this weekend, that he's a resilient player. He lost stream before, was still able to make top cut.
Yep.
He's done down in this series, but still came back and made it pretty interesting here. And, players will have a good chance of making the top, even after losing the first round. It's never what you want to do because, unlike Day 1, it's just the top 8 players who move on to the top 8. So the tiebreaker for that is your opponent's win percentage. So, in a Swiss format tournament, every round you play someone with the same record as you. So by starting out the loss early, you kind of build up a lower opponent win percentage. But all players that finish this with only 1 loss will move on. So if John wins out, he's still safe. And if not, we're expecting about half of the players who end up with only 2 losses to move on. So he's still got a decent shot at it. It's only 1 loss. He played a solid series there. Fun to watch from both players.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, John has come back from these types of deficits before. He entered Day 2 with a 7-2 record. Just barely cutting after his loss on stream yesterday. But it seems like this is kind of John's tournament. Like, we had never really seen much of John before last year, where he made it to, I believe, top 4 of the tournament. And now he's back here on Day 2, hoping to go a little bit further along, make the top 8 cut. Unfortunately, they had to run into Gavin on the first round. Of course, Gavin, a former national champion himself, so no stranger to this kind of pressure. But both players, I would expect to still continue to do great things today. Yeah,
probably. However, I think you mentioned, it's a little unfortunate to draw Gavin, but I think that's just some of this field. There aren't a whole lot of names you're going to want to run into here. It's almost not even that unfortunate of a draw so much as this is just going to be every round.
Yeah.
A lot of props to John, though. A lot of players who use kind of the more obscure Pokemon like he does, either it doesn't work very well, which we've all seen a lot of, or they just don't really seem to pick that Pokemon, so they kind of win in spite of it. But, Lopunny doing a lot of work in every game we've seen him play so far. Last year we saw him using Sableye and Lapras and actually picking them most games and them being very effective. So certainly a player's shown us he can make the less conventional Pokemon work, and it'll be exciting to see how we can do the rest of the day. See if he can pull out a top cut for the 2nd year in a row, and we'll see if Gavin can do the same thing. 2 of the players from the top 8 last year, along with Jody Azzarelli, who managed to make the Day 2 of the tournament this year.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting to see how both of these players fare in the rest of the tournament. We're going to take a real quick break, and when we come back, we'll actually be talking to Gavin about his Round 1 win and hopefully about his ambitions for the rest of the tournament. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.